start out by saying, can you believe it's been 5 years?
5 years!
It's such an honor to have you all here and to have this thing keep going year after year, quarter after quarter. It's been just amazing to me, and it's all because of you. So I appreciate you immensely. And I think it would be a horrible thing if I didn't at least say a couple of words about the shit that's going on in our country right now. And art is everything. Whether it's through words, through words, or thanks, Brad.
Sorry.
I just punctuate. Hop in my piece. Punctuate. What I want to say is like, come on, white people. Let's talk to our people and let's make shit different. And most of it, I'm kind of speaking to the choir sometimes in this room, but we all have family, we all have friends, we all have places we can interrupt the bullshit. I ended up on a site or a page of a friend of mine that I went to high school with. I ended up going in with, my guns blazing and being really pissed off and having this I was the only person there that didn't say, don't take down our beautiful statues, sort of thing. And I was like, don't you understand? And I went through post after post after post, and the most vehement person on there was a guy who was a Vietnam vet who fought for our country, who had a gay friend, who had a black friend, who fought with all these people and stuff. And I just stopped, just for a fucking second, and thought, what is this guy thinking? He's sitting in the middle of the woods in his camp. I knew that by some other things he had said. And he's trying to scream at me, no, I'm not one of those guys. And I'm trying to scream at him, but just by the very act of you defending this, you're one of those guys. And I stopped for a second, and I said, and I might be a pansy bastard for saying this, but I stopped for a second and said, sir, I appreciate where you're coming from and what you're doing, and from the sounds of it, you sound like a pretty stand-up guy, and you're doing stuff for your community, and I know that you have fought for your country, and he had mentioned that he was 80% disabled from his time in Vietnam. And I said, man, I really do appreciate your stance. But I want you to hear me too, that this is very, very sad for me. He thought I was talking about bakeries and queers and not being able to, he's like, you won, you got the marriage thing. I'm like, this isn't about me. I can take care of myself. I'm worried about all those people who can't take care of themselves. And all these Nazi bastards fucking running around with their guns and all this other stuff. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And he's like, and I said, so I apologize for any harsh words. And he came back to me and said, you have earned my respect. This is what America's about. Sitting down and being able to have a conversation. And we came together for just a minute. And that was a huge thing for me because I've been so angry. Because I came from a place in Idaho where everybody thinks like that. And thinks that these grand statues are part of our history. And you know what, they're not. They're part of a way to like stomp people down and keep people down. So he said, I might agree to disagree, but I respect you and I will listen to you. And that's all I asked for. And I'm kind of hoping that maybe those of us who can stand up and say, this is what I asked for, So that's all I have to say about that right now. Well, thank you for being here. And I don't generally write or read poetry very often, and I'm not on the bill. But last weekend, I know, I gotta talk to the organizer of this because I'm going off script. So last weekend, you might not know, I work with Lydia Yukevich for corporeal writing, and I was asked to actually teach after the class last weekend, and it was amazing to be able to do that and to be able to see what came out of people. And I kind of sat back and listened to stuff, and then I couldn't sleep at all when I got home on Monday night, and I ended up staying up till 6 o'clock in the morning writing this sexy thing. So, because the whole idea was, it was a workshop on the erotics of writing, And erotics don't necessarily mean sex or anything. It's not just sex, it's like the whole idea of eros and thanatos. And it's thanatos meaning death. And if any of you know me, you've known that I've gone through a whole lot of death and grief and stuff in the last year. So this one is about eros and thanatos and corporeality. A love story in triplicate. If I needed to eat you, where would I start? In that little hollow at the base of your neck, just between shoulder and ear? Would I fill it with whispers or dig right in? Just one precise bite. Would that be enough? Harder, you'd say, and I would. My teeth would sink in slow and deep, not quite clean through. I'd have to tug a little for that one last bit to tear loose for me to chew. With such a delicacy, I'd take my time and start to suck as the blood begins to cool. I'd know how this goes, but I wouldn't know how we got here. First a lick, I suppose. Your tongue between my fingers, like you did that one time. My hand would fly to your throat, swift like the ghosts you conjure from the corner of your room. At night you count them, 1, 2, 4, just to know where they are. 3 doesn't count, and even if it did, you wouldn't speak its name. I shove you so hard against the wall, the little brass vase you keep on the shelf crashes to the floor. I raise your arms above your head and shove my knee up in between, the only place I fit. You smile a challenge, and I shove my hand down deep and in and punch back up. Again, you say, again. Ah, sweet scarab spitting on my fist. I will never be able to save you, but I give you the old college try. I'd pound and I'd punch until the other U's scream out of your holes and into the box I made for myself the day you named me yours. I let you fall to the floor and follow you down. My tongue stabs your mouth as a new day starts. You sucking so hard, my tongue becomes meat, swollen and hungry for its inevitable end. You're not the first human I've eaten, but you might be the last. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce our MCs for the evening, Colin Farstad and Kevin Meyer.
Yeah, so we actually have one thing before we started. It's been 5 wonderful years, but we have a little surprise here for Dominique. Amy, you want to come on out Anything, Amy? Yeah. Oh, first I guess the surprise here.
Tommy, close your eyes. Close your eyes.
So, getting up here is scary as shit, you guys. So Dom, just briefly, I won't take 5 minutes because this scares me. I, at the last bit of tongue, found myself walking inside to go to the bathroom afterwards and looking at one of your posters and thinking, I would like to wear that because that's how my brain works. And then I decided to make a mannequin out of all the first 20 burnt tongue posters. And I got Kelly and Lisa to help me out with that, and Lisa snuck. Lisa kind of stole some of your old burnt tongue posters so I could make copies of them. And I will bring them back to you. And then I decided that Burnt Tongue is about more than just the posters, it's about the writers. So I created a secret Facebook group for Burnt Tongue, and I didn't invite you, and I'm really sorry. Of the 133 writers who have read at the past 20 Burnt Tongues, I got 67 people to contribute pieces of their writing for this. So the thing that I want you to know and remember with this is, and that I discovered, is you have created a space for a incredible fucking community of people. And we all love the shit out of you. So it's not 100% complete. I'm going to take it back home so that I can varnish it and make sure it doesn't get damaged. Yeah, I hope once I call it flat butt Phil because it doesn't have an ass. But once Phil is your roommate, I hope every time you look at it, you...
It feels more in my bathroom. My bathroom's as big as a goddamn apartment in New York.
Well, I just hope every time you look at it, you can remember, you can be proud of what you've created here, and you can remember how loved you are by all of these people. Thank you all for helping out with this.
Thank you. I used to think my therapist was a shopping spa. Fuck you.
Please, everybody. I think you were a good job there. Well, I'm starting to start now. We do have to get to our readers, but it's been 5 years, which is amazing. I don't know, not a lot's happened in my life in the last 5 years, right? How about you, Kevin?
No, not that much. Let's see, I was living in California when the first Burnt Tongue started, and moved back here when I got divorced. Met somebody else, fell in love, realized I wasn't in love, met yet another person, fell in love for real this time. Mostly stopped writing. I'm like a cool guy now. I dress like Johnny Cash and make weird electronic music, and I've got these purple shades. I don't know. So yeah, that's not much. What about you?
Let's see, I also was divorced and fell in love with somebody and realized that I didn't love them and met something new and moved to New York and moved back. And so it all sounds pretty similar. I think it's pretty good. It's very small changes in our lives. Anyway, so we're going to get started, and Kevin here's going to introduce our wonderful first new writer.
Thanks, Colin. Love you. Okay, so our first reader tonight is Shannon Brazil. Shannon's one of those Shannon is a writer. Nazis. No, there's context there. I'm just going to read it. You don't want me to edit that way. It's terrible. I'm bad at that. Shannon Brazil is one of those writers who loves writing so much she's at risk of a nervous breakdown when not writing, especially because life, Nazis, and he who shall not be named. Voldemort?
Yeah.
Especially because love, survival, and the beautiful tangle and mess that goes with it. Shannon's plays were produced in New York and LA ages ago. She won some awards for writing and stuff. She's currently revisiting the first draft of her first novel. Shannon's essay on sexual assault was published on the Manifestation and has been shared hundreds of times on Facebook. Yay squared. There was a yay in there earlier. I didn't read that part. See, editing on the fly. Shannon is a dual resident of Black Rock City, aka the place where Burning Man is, and Portland. She's learning how not to say everything she's thinking. Shannon Brazil. Yeah, well, this is another thing that's new. This mic is wireless now. It's beautiful.
I for sure can't hold this. I'm already too nervous. It goes like this. Okay. I'm not going to look up at you guys because I'm too nervous, but what I have to say is that this scene takes place about halfway through my novel. I can look at you right this minute. And what you need to know about the story is that the narrator is in a sexless marriage. She has had a one-time pass to sleep with somebody outside of her marriage, which happened at Burning Man, and that person is called the Spaniard. And she has small children, 2 3-year-olds and a 5-year-old, and she, out of the blue, has gotten an email from the Spaniard saying, I would love to see you again and I'll fly you down to San Francisco if you can get the yes from your husband. So this is 5 days after that, and they were at a place with a lot of kid germs, and the boy licked some stuff and is now sick. One of the boys. You'll figure out, I think, who it is, and you'll know from here. 5 days later, Xander was sick with the crud. I rocked him back and forth on my hip, his blankie tucked under his chin, but I had this big secret smile inside of me and 1,000 questions rolling around my head. Was it possible the Spaniard was as tall as I remembered, as handsome, as strong, as good a lover? It had been 7 weeks since the burn, 7 weeks of masturbatory orgasms I meticulously built from the fantasy memory of him. But now I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to wrap my body around the Spaniard body in real life, in a real room with a real bed. That dusty desert scape messes with minds the way it messes with cars. No engine is ever the same after Burning Man. And the truth is, if I never saw the Spaniard again, if the whole thing ended right there, it would have been enough to keep me smiling through the rainy grays of winter. And yet, that lump in my throat started to ache, the one I'd had my whole life, but this time it came with the tiniest pulse of light. I had to ask. I had to see if Kevin would be okay with the Spaniard flying me down to San Francisco to see him for 1 weekend. Because our biggest regrets in life are not what we do, but what we don't do. That's what I told myself anyway. And that night in particular, the night of the big ask, it was true enough. So I went full domestic, apron, hair tie, Kevin's favorite stew, all with Xander sick on my hip, because in order to approach Kevin with a second one-time free pass, I needed conditions to be as favorable as possible. And that meant imported tomatoes, sausage from the fancy market up the street, fresh kale, fresh thyme, fresh cayenne pepper, all that. In the air, there were notes of dirty socks, but mostly the house smelled delicious. On the counter, a crust of loafy Paisan bread waiting to be heated in the oven, a vaguely decent bottle of Trader Joe's red wine uncorked on the counter. I even went as far as to wash the grime off 2 wine glasses we hadn't used in 4 years since moving to Portland. And basically, I was killing it. Even with Xander sick on my hip, even with light bulb boogers coming out his nose. Light bulb boogers are bulbous and yellow, but they sometimes come in green. Xander's were 2 sticky yellow bulbs peeking out both nostrils. Light bulb boogers have a very particular elastic quality to them. They cannot be wiped with a quick tissue smear. It requires a special pincer grasp technique. If you mess up, you get a booger pull string from nose to tissue. A sight gag, except for all the screaming. Xander screamed the whole time I stood over the stove that night. Sweat circles under my armpits, greasy apron around my waist, bent head even though it was 5 in the evening. I tied my hair into a one-handed top knot, strands stuck messy in all directions. In the kitchen window reflection, I was Medusa with a toddler on my hip and a wooden spoon in my hand. And with all these complications going on, there was no chance of a shower before Kevin got home from work in 20 minutes. Xander, please, I said, please sit on the couch, honey. I tried to pry him off me, but his limbs went octopus around my neck and hips. And meanwhile, the Legos had come back with a vengeance, several thousand of them. As I set the table, Renee, my 5-year-old, filled each empty bowl with handfuls of Lego bricks. Between Xander's cry, that god-awful clickety of bricks caked with dirt and hairballs from our never-mopped floor into our soup bowls. Renee was naked, except for the usual red rain boots, her little bare butt cheeks on the table, topping each bowl with a Lego figure, the most special figure of all for her dad. I could tell by the lilt of her voice. Obi-Wan Kenobi's, she said. She dropped the red-robed brown figure in Kevin's bowl, but her little eyebrows furrowed low. Uh-oh, he lost his lifesaver, he said. Just as well, no weapons at the table, I told her, and I patted my back for being so quick and so mom-clever with the answer. But the powerful silence was just around the corner, Beckett, behind the couch, and I should have known better. It's hard for parents to resist the hypnotic lull of quiet. It seduces you, one less thing to worry about. The trouble with that is that we hardly know how much we've risked until we've lost big. And it wasn't unusual for Beckett to disappear with a little notebook. He was a talented artist, and that's not just the mom talking. He once drew an entire landscape using nothing but itsy-bitsy frying pans. And I mean by that, instead of using simple lines for the contour of each object, it was a pattern of hundreds of teeny tiny frying pans. And once he mastered a shape, he really ran with it. And I believe his knack for frying pans is what sparked his interest in drawing penises. The point is, he often sat quietly with that notebook of his behind the couch. And he did that 5 days after I got the Spaniard's email. The Spaniard, his skin was sunburned all over except for the white shadow beneath his dark thatch of pubic hair, musty scent of bergamot, sandalwood, and sweat. The stew was at a gentle bubble. There was 8 minutes on the bread. Renee refused to get dressed, but that was okay. I had to choose my battles. My lips on Xander's forehead told me he was running a 99 to 100 degree temperature, and my lips were never wrong. So I opted for the quick fix, a fever reducer, because my whole sexual future was riding on the Spaniard in Seattle, and it's an on-purpose choice of words, riding. Was it true that the Spaniard in the desert, with only small breaks in between, had stayed hard for 36 hours? I had to have remembered it wrong, but in the whites of me, it felt true. And with that hope on the horizon, I just wanted to accomplish a successful family dinner for once in my life. So I could tell Kevin that I had changed, that I couldn't go back, that I needed more. My past dinner fails included a refrigerator door that fell off for no reason, breaking glass jars all over the floor. The time Xander threw a boot through the front window, and the fish burned black and smoke billowed from the place where the window used to be. The time Renee stood on her chair and announced that her clitoris was really a penis, and then she peed fire hose stream into her dinner plate. That's maybe where Beckett got it. I gave Xander the syringe of medicine, hugged him up with both hands, and gave him a quick 40 kisses on the cheek. I gobbled his neck warm. I stuck my nose in his shaggy brown hair. The last time I saw the Spaniard, his long brown curls and thin braids had been caked with dust and desert. In real life, I imagine his hair soft and silky and clean, and falling all over me with his hips on top of my body. There was crusty warm dough filling the kitchen right then, plus the stew, plus the dirty sock undertones, plus Xander's shaggy hair. And maybe without all of those smells layering my nose, maybe without the Spaniard sex on the brain, just maybe I would have smelled what was really going on. I would have registered those first traces of the smell wafting from the living room walls to be exact. A pasty, thick, fecally smell I came to call code brown. Picture this, my eyes downward on my bare feet, chip toe polish, slow, step by step across the nicked and crumbed up fur floor, a toddler foot bouncing slack with each step, slow motion in and out of my field of downward vision, my feet across the threshold of the kitchen to the dining room, and maybe this isn't possible, but this is the way I see it in my mind. Muted colors, toys, trucks, Legos in grayscale, a sinister buzz, and the on and off flicker of the dining room light. A faraway, echoey voice of a girl child. She sings the same hollow words over and over. The good is split in 2 syllables, 2 corresponding tones, high and then low. It's not good. It's not good. The room opens up in a slow haunt, and my vision zollies back into a disorienting wide shot and a simultaneous float forward, the up close of our walls, 2 feet off of the floor, the dining room, into the living room, all the way across, handprints, fingerprints, swipe marks, but mostly crude brown hieroglyphics, a repeating pattern, 2 circles and a tube, 2 circles and a tube, a dozen more shit penises everywhere. All the breath in both rooms sucked into my lungs, gasp fast right then. A naked bum, smaller than Renee's bum. It was Beckett facing the wall in progress. One hand on a sagging soiled diaper, basket style. The other hand dipping fingers into the shit, scooping it up like paint. Fecal paintings of penises, shafts and balls growing more and more accurate in representation as he progressed from dining room to living room. And it was all Homo sapiens instinct after that. Gut wrench and vomit throat, mouth wider than wide, voice louder than loud, my arms clutching Xander, and at the same time, I almost dropped him in this one-of-a-kind, never-before primordial mezzo-soprano scream. Holy fucking shit! And the word shit went on for 2 entire measures. That's 8 musical beats. And what happened then, out of the blue, each one of my children, in fright reflex, nearly jumped out of their little skins. Their eyes and their mouths shot open. Their individual screams met my scream. Beckett, the shit artist, whirled around so fast, he threw the diaper startled high in the air, and the diaper splat-landed face down on our beige couch. Renee had been at the dining room light switch, strobing the shit show for special effects. When I screamed and she screamed, her arms flapped up and down for several seconds, and she ran in place and then peed on the floor. But that wasn't the worst. The worst was poor Xander, so sick in my arms and so frightened to the bone that his scream couldn't get out. Spit strings stretched across his open mouth, the inhale that went on longer than forever, no sound. He got that from me. Animal fear in his sweet brown eyes, a deeper red in his fever-flushed cheeks, and those light bulb boogers clogging his breath. I pulled him emergency close to my chest, my hand over his head, swayed him side to side, my cheek to the top of his hair, in that forever silence. When his voice finally came, it was this baby bear cry, helpless and shattering, a cry that tore my heart up with vicious mom tears, tears that soaked the crown of Xander's shaggy head. My green grass, mud puddled baby bear innocent. Bad mom, how could I? Renee standing in her own pee, Beckett up to his eyeballs in shit, all 4 of us crying at once. That's when the door opened. That's when Kevin walked in. Thanks, you guys.
Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing. I guess two things just to say is one that I've been told many times I need to enunciate better, so please forgive me. And the other thing is for people that I don't know your names, when I do introduce you, I'm sorry. I know there's a really hard name, Christy Georgia and Judy Littele, right? Am I pronouncing those right, guys? Anyways, our next reader, Tracy Burkholder, has been reading, listening to, and writing next to, if not with, dangerous writers since she moved to Portland in 1993. Undoubtedly influenced and inspired by the strength and breadth of this literary community. She's currently completing a hybrid essay, poem, memoir about want. She also writes every week about doing something that she's never done before at her blog, not until now. Please welcome Tracy Burkholder.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I got invited to the cool kids party. It's like my kind of cool kids. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to read a little short piece from hopefully what's soon to be finished manuscript. It's set in high school, true story. It's called Threat of Rain. Their shoes scraped through the gravel behind me. Their words slithered and choked. God, you're so fucking hot. I longed for the old deflectable nouns of freak or loser. Even the 7th grade classic E.T. would have been better than the impossible stain of this new sarcasm. Slow down, come on. What do you think we're gonna do? I had no idea. What exactly they wanted or were pretending to want was all a bad guess. I fixed my gaze on the turnoff and tried not to run. Tried not to explain that I was just in a hurry to get home before it started to pour. On the corner sat the tiny white house where one of them lived. As usual, a small, anxious dog stood on the back of the couch, caught between the curtain and window, screeching. Slow down, don't go. Don't leave me like this. Safe in my room, I didn't come down until dinner. Table set, candles lit. I answered all questions with the fewest possible words, smiling when necessary. Mom and I ate our zucchini first, liking it least. Dad and I said nothing but please while pointing at the butter or salt. We ate quickly and returned to our places in front of the TV. At 3 a.m., it was deviant to be upright. But not just upright, also downstairs, and naked under my big, ugly bathrobe, ties undone. I'd left my faded U2 t-shirt and plain white undies upstairs next to my bed. Down the hall, my parents laid unconscious on opposite sides of their California king. It felt almost, but not entirely impossible to stand in front of the back door and shrug the robe to the floor. The reflection of soft, pale curves surprised me, and then no reflection. Just bare feet on the wet deck and bare skin in the rain. All of it, all open and shivering against the fresh air. Then more, down onto the deck. Ass, leg, spine, shoulder, head. Rain everywhere on me, the way sun once was. Then more, with palms tucked beneath hips, I urged my legs up and into the long line of a shoulder stand. Rain rolled between my toes and thighs, everywhere, the way sun once was. I'm the only one awake for miles around. I'm the only one who knows the rain this way, and they never will, and they never will, and they never will. Feet to the sky, the what ifs poured into my head. What if I got up and walked across the wet grass, past the neighbor's house, and down the street to the corner where the scruffy dog slept between curtain and window. What if I walked straight up to the window, dressed in nothing but goosebumps and rain? What if I raised my finger to the glass and tapped softly at first, and then louder until everyone heard, until everyone saw me, stretched tall, ready for whatever came next? Thank you.
I'm just gonna fix this mic situation now because Doug's even taller than I am. Pretend I'm this tall. How's that? Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Where are you going? There you are. Thank you. Our next reader is Doug Chase. Doug works and writes in Portland, Oregon. He's been published online in Nailed Magazine, The Tusk, and The Gravity of the Thing, and in print in the very weird anthology City of Weird, and even weirder, difficult, but weirder forthcoming book, The Untold Gaze, which pairs weird paintings by Stephen O'Donnell with flash fiction pieces by weird writers. Doug just finished the first draft of his probably weird novel, The Last Two Hippies of Hamilton High, and is working on his finished draft with through the Athenium program at the Attic Weird Institute. Doug Chase.
So I kind of got wrecked when Tom and Sage walked in the door. So forgive me. It's really good to see you, Tom. And I have a little bit of thank you and a little bit of an intro. This is for my teacher, Tom Spandauer. Also my beautiful Tracy Trudeau. And my sister Marjorie is here, and she makes a couple of cameos in my book as Little Annie. Because Dami has been so nice to me, this is maybe the 10th or 12th time I've read here. She was there 6 years ago when I started the first draft of my story about 3 high school boys in 1973 who hitchhiked from LA to Big Sur during their winter break. It's now 100,000 words later. And the messy life of a first draft is done. Dami, here are the last couple of pages of the book. You've heard the beginning. This is the ending. I'm reading this especially for you, and because of how you inspire me. And as for the rest of you, I don't care about the spoiler alerts. It's a road trip, so it's the journey that counts. But if you have to know, before these last 2 pages, there is pain, jealousy, fear, racism, threats, bullying, a big party, getting high and getting drunk, a fire in a shed, more than one incidence of oral sex, fortunes told, unrequited love, a kick in the balls, a drunk driver, a typewriter salesman, and a mermaid. Also a hardware store, a yellow V-Dub, scrambled eggs, Windex and Clorox, and another mermaid. So now you know you're ready for the end of the book. Michael, Red, and Tommy are spending their last night in Big Sur on the side of the road on a wide verge of grass between highway and ocean. These are 15 and 16-year-old boys, and it's December 1973. It is as dark as it gets away from the city lights. When it's winter and the moon is just a sliver, they're breaking bread, peanut butter sandwiches on Wonder Bread, and they talked quietly about the trip. When Red gave me my sandwich, the giving was slow and full of touch. We had to feel for each other, his one hand taking mine and opening it up, and his other hand careful on how to place the sandwich. His fingers long, taut with strength, the knuckles large and swollen, the fingertips asking questions. Peanut butter thick between soft slices of bread, more like a confection than a sandwich. My first bite too big. My jaws working the peanut butter, my tongue pushing along the rows of my teeth, as if we weren't all quiet enough. Ocean singing, the sound of breeze. Red whispered, and his whisper fit in just right. It's been an experience, he said. His last word, experience, trailed off and merged with wind and sea. We had more sandwiches, maybe 2 or 3 each. Tommy chewed and wheezed. I'd forgotten about how he wheezed. Got so used to it, it went to the background. But every sound became more than it used to be. His wheeze present, but not intruding or provoking like it had been at the beginning. It was just Tommy. I felt light all the way through. The air flowed through my skin, through my head and chest, and out the other side. Except my belly, where the sandwiches sat in their chewed up state, the only part of me that was grounded. Which is good. I might have blown away. None of us were grounded. We were all in the air. Gravity no longer a thing. Such an absence of light, we might have been sitting this way in the clouds. I feel like we talked and whispered and remembered the whole trip. 3 of us. But I can't tell you who said what. Mostly where we kept landing was the moment we were dropped off in Big Sur itself. The fence, the shed, the scrambled eggs, the rain. 3 days we carried our sleeping bags but never used them. Now we did. I took off my Adidas, set them in my backpack, pushed around the pack to form some kind of pillow for my head, and scooted myself into my bag, pushing feet and legs down to the end. Tall as I was, I'd have to curl up to be fully covered, but I lay back, head on my pack, looked up at the sky, and there it was. 5,000 or 10,000 or a million stars. From one edge of darkness to another. The flat ground, the shadow of the world, but above us, so much light. So much. I almost couldn't take it. We were there, Red, Tommy, me, lying together under this open sky, and the song of ocean blew around us, the bigness of it all, bigger than I could think. I didn't fall asleep for a long time. I would close my eyes, listen, open them again. At some point the fog came in, thick and wet and all around, all closed in, the stars hidden on the other side, the ocean deeper somehow in its chorus but farther away. No other sound, not even the breathing of my friends. Alone. After some time, not much, the fog went away, back out to sea, and the sky, the great arch of light was there again, every star in every place, and me below them. Some kind of strings from every one of them through the dark and into me. And the fog came in again, and back out. I don't know how many times. The world and the universe playing a game, some kind of dance. My arms, my legs, all the energy in me drained away, out my skin, out the top of my head. It was me in the air and the sky, full of no fear. The things I had been afraid of, the 1,000 critical voices that pushed me through life, they had blown out of me with the wind. They had added their small glow to the fog so I could see where they had gone. I would never have Red the way I had him before. The being alone. I tried to hide from it. It was there too, as clear and obscuring as the thickness of air above me, but not in me. In that moment, it had lifted with everything else and blew out to sea. There were only stars across everything. Planets, suns, light. At some point I fell asleep, woke up again to the stars, my face wet, my hair, woke up again and the lightest rain fell. I turned my body and tucked my legs and hid my head inside my sleeping bag and slept. This was her third night.
I am not as tall as I used to say. I luckily got to get to also introduce another New York refugee that somehow I beat back to Florida a year after he told me he wanted to get back here. David Chimel's fiction has appeared in Nail Magazine, Lambda Literary Award-winning anthology Portland Creators, Tales of Rose City, Underwater New York, Lumina, The Frozen Moment, Contemporary Writers and the Traces that Shaped Their Lives, and on Broadcaster. His poetry has appeared in Poetry Manifest. He is a 2011 Lambda Literary Fellow in Fiction and a proud recipient of a 2015 Tinkle 4 Writers Foundation grant. His original screenplay, Criminal, appears on DVD as Fresco. David currently teaches with writers in the schools and young audiences, as well as at Portland's Attic Institute. Look for him. Please welcome David Chimel.
Hi, Dami. I love you, Dami.
I love you too, David.
Thank you for this. And I want to also say that I love you, Constance Bauer. Thank you for this. This is an excerpt from a 1,000-page manuscript that I really began in earnest in Tom's workshop. And I finally feel like I'm plodding toward the finish line.
Yes.
What you need to know, for those of you that don't, it is the Great Depression in New Jersey, 1936. 15-year-old Belladonna Marie Donato fucked for the first time at 15, had a baby. The baby is in an orphanage, and she is trying to find a way to get him back. The proposal. Clifton, New Jersey, November 1936. The lunch stand in the middle of the factory complex had been closed for the last several years. Rusted metal shutters down, moss-stubbled brick, dirt tiers. The place needed a close shave, and Bella was just the girl to do it. When she got inside with buckets and brooms, she saw it was a nice, serviceable cooking room. 2 griddles and 4 burners frosted with giant splotches of cold grease, mounds of dirt and dust, enough to make even an old rat sneeze. It took 3 days and 2 nights to get the place thoroughly clean, but more than elbow grease was going to be needed to run things. But where would she get the money? When she was done cleaning, she lost the smelly coat her shoulders had been carrying like a yoke, and dolled herself up the way she'd been taught by Torelli. She shampooed and pin-curled her hair so it unfurled like ocean waves suspended in stormy air. She lipsticked and eyelash Vaseline. Then she slapped on a tight skirt, a nice blouse, and a good winter jacket, the one Joe had given Conchetta for having her first baby. It was a cartoonish little car-cody kind of thing that appealed to Bella's lavish sense of absurdity. Light wool trimmed with a bucket full of glamour girl fur, nice, big, fat buttons, juicy baton tops, nipple props. It was a sheath of pale blue, the color of the afternoon sky in mid-June. She stood in front of the cracked full-length mirror and silently thanked Torelli. She blessed him and asked Jesus to protect him wherever he might be. Then she grabbed Conchetta's baby buggy and hit Main Street. First stop, Joe's elbow room. After crossing herself 3 times, she wheeled her way in and asked to see Dino Montebologna again. 4 lazy-looking goons, sweaty bucks swinging on invisible meat hooks, swiftly tried to buggy her back out the door, but she wheeled her way around them and stood firm, heels anchored in the floor. "I'm not leaving until I see the olive oil king," she yelled up to the rafters. "I don't care if you cement my heels and drop me to the bottom of the goddamn sea." The goons circled her like a posse of Italian army tanks. Their teeth dripped domination and hate. A set of two eyes gleamed rape. They whistled and cackled and catcalled until a low voice yelled from the back of the place, "Show the young lady in." Bella was wheeled to a far, dark corner, to a table tucked under a low-hanging gambling lamp, where she reunited with a man who wanted to marry her sister. Black Dino, sitting in a throne-like chair, looking much the same, ink-black hair slicked back with fancy barber's pomade, not a strand out of place. And the same driver, from his visit to the house, seated behind him, reading a Bible-thick book, something called War and Peace. Dino took a sip of espresso. "Well, if it ain't Bella Donna Marie, long time no see." Bella gripped the handle of the buggy. "Almost a year, I think." Dino eyed the buggy. "You look different. Your face blossomed, your perfume doesn't stink." Dino sat nose to a chest of two chubby roses, freshly bloomed, pom-poms, breathless peonies. They made him sneeze. "How's your sister anyway?" "I didn't come here to talk about my family," Bella Donna Marie said. "I came here to talk about me." Dino glanced at the buggy again. "I thought you weren't the marrying kind." "Fuck you. I need some cash. I thought maybe you'd want to help me with a little enterprise." "What kind of enterprise?" Bella raised her chin high. "I'm gonna cook and sell meatball sandwiches." "Why?" "Well, I got a baby to rescue." For the first time, a small twitch flashed across Bella's lips, but her chin remained high. "Meatballs, huh?" "Yep. Are they as good as your lasagna?" Bella's eyes narrowed into his, and for the first time, her lips smiled. "They're better." "You got a game plan?" "Yeah, back at the factory, I've laid claim to an old food stand. I got a ready pack of steady noon whistle customers waiting. All I need is a little money up front to buy some supplies and kick on the gas. Once the balls start rolling in, I'll pay you back." Now Dino smiled. "Plus interest." "How much?" 10%. "Can we make it 5? Dino held her gaze. "You know, I once shot a man for making me a bad meatball." "My meatballs will make you want to kill that man all over again." Dino laughed, then his face flashed all wise guy. "How about you show me what you can do?" He lit a cigar and took a few puffs to get the tip going good. "Hey, Solly," he called to the man behind the bar. "Show the young lady the kitchen and give her everything she needs." For the next hour and a half, Dino cut cards, took calls, checked the race sheets, and smoked cigars. His goon finished War and Peace and moved on to a fresh copy of Gone with the Wind, while the meaty, greasy, cheesy perfume of the cooking distracted all of them. When the clock over the bar struck noon, Bella appeared, balancing a bowl of steaming meatballs nestled in a pool of thick tomato gravy. She placed it under the capo's nose, along with a napkin and a spoon. Dino lifted the bowl and took a good, long sniff. He cut the meatball in half for the purpose of an explorer unfurling a map. Then he lifted the meatball half with the spoon and really looked at it, closing one eye and with the other narrowed like the lens of a diamond loop. He assessed. Then he expertly checked its heft. He sniffed again. Then he blew. Then he spooned the meat into his mouth and chewed and chewed. Everyone waited, especially the goons. The driver closed his book. "Hey, boss, you need to take another bite?" The bartender leaned across the stool. "Did you get enough gravy with them balls? You need some more ragu." Bella threw up her arms. "Well, are you going to give me the money or are you going to fucking shoot me?" Dino frowned. He stood up. He curled his hands into fists and slammed the table hard. "How much dough you figure you need, sweetheart?"
Hey guys, just really quickly before we introduce next speaker, first of all, I want to thank Rutsch Bar for hosting these long projects. And always and also thank you, Tony. It's been, 5 years of doing this every 3 months, and it's really wonderful. But we also have one person showing up, and
We just wanted to thank Tom for inspiring us all this time, for the years since we got started, for all the years before that, and we're glad you're here. Next reader is Krista DeBacchus Price. Krista was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. She lives, teaches, and writes in Portland, Oregon. Krista was a former dangerous writer. She's a frequent reader at the Burnt Tongue series and has published in Nail magazine and the class that fell in love with the man. She's hard at work on her book, Teaching a Love Story. Or is it teaching? There's no comma in there, it's just teaching a love story. The love story is being taught. Totally. Okay. Editing on the fly. You don't want me to do that. She has 2 children and 1 husband, not the other way around. Krista DeBacchus Price.
Beautiful job at that. David, I love you, but I hate that I have to follow you. That's fantastic. Dami, in your little introduction, you said this has been possible for 5 years because of us. No, it's been possible for 5 years because of you. Yes. Thank you so much. And hey, Tom. Hi, Sid. Okay, I'm going to be really quick. This doesn't take much setup. This is just a really short chapter from a book I've been working on about my experience teaching at Field College. This short chapter is, I'm going to take you into my classroom, and I'm teaching a group of students. It's called pre-college English, which means they didn't do so well on their English portion of the entrance exams. Okay? It's called Sad Song. Take out your journals or a blank sheet of paper, I say. Today's free write prompts are when I looked up, or when I was born, or whatever happens to be on your mind. I write the prompts on the whiteboard. The stinky dry erase marker squeaks. Remember, I say, no worries about grammar or punctuation. I'm not even going to read it unless you ask me to. Just write, 10 minutes, now go. I take a stroll around the room to make sure everybody is writing or making an attempt at writing. I know that for some it takes a while to get going, but I want to make sure everyone is on task. No phone checking, no working on other homework. If they need a word of encouragement, I'll offer it. After a few minutes, I return to my seat. 8 minutes into the free write, Theodore comes up to me. Tall with rich, dark skin, severe, taut face, strong jaw, lithe and powerful. He's surprisingly light on his feet, dancer-like. His sage green t-shirt clings to his chest and biceps reveal muscles even when he is relaxed. Although he never really looks relaxed. A snake tattoo veins his upper arm. It would be easy to be intimidated by Theodore, which I believe is exactly what he's hoping for. He stands close enough for me to sense his quiet power and looks away as he hands me his paper with long, graceful fingers. Can I show this to you? He says. It's not very good. Of course, I say. Come sit with me. I drag a chair over and we sit head to head. Theodore's close-cropped hair, scented coconut, and my mouse brown 40-something teacher hair. I read, when I was 3, my mother Sharon used to make me happy. I had company that made me feel warm inside until one day she was taken away by the police. But that is not exactly how Theodore has written it. He has detailed his violent childhood in fragments, in broken sentences and run-ons. It's a mess, but I understand. My heart starts to sink, but I smile at him. I act like it is no big deal. My job is to fix his sentences. Subject, verb, agreement. No run-ons. Active, not passive. I'm told that if Theodore is ever to have a shot in this world, he needs to play by the writing rules, and that it is up to me to teach him those rules. But I can't help looking beyond the rules, because beyond the rules is Theodore and Theodore's story. I scoot my chair even closer. Let's try this, I say. We rearrange clauses and choose different words. We repair the run-ons. See, I say, just need a little tweaking. Together we make the sentences work. His words, his pain, his life. We work on the words and phrases until the sentences begin to sing their sad song. They favored my brother Randy because of his light skin color. I grew up knowing nothing but hate. I stayed distant because my heart was in pain. Now see how it flows? I turn to him to make sure he's okay. But when I look up, Theodore's face is different. It's softer. The rugged lines relaxed. Not exactly relaxed, but softer. The brown in his eyes different. A new light there now. I'm feeling pretty good. And to think, I say, now you're in college. Theodore drops his head. I know, he says. The light gone again. His eyes stark and sad and back on alert. He looks away. My writing's like third grade. No, that's not what I mean, I say. Don't worry about the writing, it's fine. What I mean is that after all you've been through, and now here you are in college. I look into his face and the light is back, a crack of a smile. I never thought of it that way, he said.
So much. Thank you so much for that. Our next writer, Kirsten Larson loves words and ideas. Curiosity is her major personality trait. She writes fiction and nonfiction when she's not working and doing other stuff. Because she loves it all, struggles are up as well. Kirsten.
I love you, still the handsomest man in the room. Donnie, thank you. I love you. Thank you for this community. This is the first thing I wrote in a workshop with Tom, Sage, and Kevin probably 5 years ago. Like everything, it's fiction, nonfiction. Basically, I just write what the fuck I want. Yeah. It's called Raw Organic Carrot Enemies. My mother still lived in a small town in Michigan where I was raised when she was diagnosed with advanced ovarian cancer. The next day, I left Portland to be with her. My Aunt Signy flew in from Alabama. I sat in the surgical waiting room while my mother had her first operation. The way I understood it was they would take all her organs out, strip the cancer from them like you remove stuck-on rice from a plate, and put everything back in, then staple her shut. He called it stripping. There was no good outcome. The surgery would only prolong her life for a bit. Bad news was kept from my mother, but given to me, a lonely situation. My knees stuck way out beyond the tan swirl patterned chair cushion. I drew them together, made myself smaller, more like a lady might sit. I held my cell phone in a hot prayer between my palms. There was always way too much of me in Michigan. On the opposite side of the room, there was a family of 5 with a dad, his thin gray hair sticking straight out of his pumpkin head. Each of his 4 children stepped into giant sweatshirts with kitten and puppy and sport team decals. One of them or the other patted their dad lightly on the back. I had to look away to keep from crying. Some conservative news program glared from the small TV in the corner. The family, all 5 of them, looked at the TV, but they probably registered about as much as I did, noise and color. There was something wrong with me. I'd never wanted to stay in the town where I grew up. I never wanted to marry into a family like theirs. My family, all unmarried, repelled to the edges of the country like magnets turned the wrong way. For us, love was easier at a distance. A doctor in blue scrubs walked into the waiting room. He was tall with a square face and dark brows. He carried a file. The family sat up, their spines pulled away from the backs of their chairs. Listen, Mr. He opened the manila file in his hand. I heard East Coast in his accent. I concentrated on my cell phone, trying to look like I wasn't listening. He shuffled a few pages, and then without finding their last name, he said, well, we had to take it. The whole foot was gangrenous, just too far gone. He shut the file and jammed it under his left armpit. I got the feeling the whole foot was not planned, and so the doctor seemed annoyed. I wanted to kick him for his tone. Both daughters put their arms across the dad's back. He pushed his glasses up using a shaking palm. "What do we do now?" the dad asked. The doctor backed toward the door. "You just wait here till she's out of recovery. You will tell her about the amputation. It's best hearing it from loved ones. I'll let Dr. Spencer explain more to you." He finished the sentence at the door. "Thank you," the dad said, even though the doctor did not understood his question. "My mom's surgeon had probably started to cut. I guess if it's not your mother, you can easily describe the surgery you were about to perform using words like stripping the organs." My neck tightened around my throat. I wanted to blame my mother. Her cancer couldn't just stay in her ovaries. No, it had to ruin the unsuspecting liver and lungs too. Even her cancer had poor boundaries. The surgeon told me they expected to find what the image test showed, that the cancer had spread everywhere, even to the omentum, the fatty apron that cushions all the organs. My mother was not the kind of mom to own an apron. Across the room, all 4 children swung their arms and stood up. They worked together, upturned magazines and tossed newspapers until one sister held up a remote control and handed it to the dad. He muted the TV sound. I pressed buttons on my phone, held it to my ear, and bent over into myself. The television would no longer cover my voice. Aunt Signy answered, and I heard tinkling water. God damn her, she was in a bathtub. The Christmas I was 10, Aunt Signy visited from Alabama. I was thrilled to have her there, so many of us in one house. Plus my grandma was alive too. And we had 3 hours to open presents because Signy had to put on makeup, curl her hair, and don a silky dressing gown to do nothing more than walk from the bedroom to the living room. 3 hours for my mom to drink, a different kind of getting ready. I pressed my aching forehead into my left thumb and fingertips. "Mom is in surgery. You said you'd be here," I said. Aunt Cindy talked with a fake accent she picked up from 25 years in Alabama, but a flat Michigan tone still came through. "Listen, I have done some research, and if you want to save your mother's life, you will do exactly as I say. We have to get her fillings removed and start giving her raw, organic carrot enemas right away. Modern medicine is controlled by the patriarchy, and it will kill her," she said. I felt a twist started under my heart. The day before at the airport, after not seeing me for 10 years, she said, "You're not using tooth whitening toothpaste, are you?" I looked into the mystery of her mouth. Holes where teeth used to be, black edges to the few skinny teeth left. "No," I lied. She would start a week's worth of lecturing. She would present literature and argue her case like a litigator until I agreed to never again use tooth whitening toothpaste. I went through it 10 years prior with the use of makeup. She launched a case about why it harms women, feeds evil corporations, and forces us to be hypersexual objects. I was weak then. I capitulated and agreed to never purchase mascara again. But I knew I would never stop wearing mascara, even if hundreds, maybe 1,000 bunnies were blinded annually in laboratory settings. I was a feminist failure. I hated myself for lying, I hated myself for the harmed bunnies, I hated myself for my mother's suffering. The truth was, between my mom and Aunt Signy, I preferred the company of Aunt Signy. Christmas I was 13, she sent me "Our Bodies Ourselves" with a speculum taped to the outside. Along with a note about how she joined a progressive circle of women who got together to look at their cervixes using speculums and mirrors, and then I should too. My mom confiscated that speculum. I still don't know what my cervix looks like. For that and more, she got on my mom's shit list and was an easy target. My mother complained to me. I tried not to engage, but the news was fascinating. Mom said, Signy had all of her fillings removed and not replaced because she believed fillings disrupted the natural positive and negative ionic flow between teeth. She has a PhD in philosophy and can't even keep a job at a grocery store, Mom said. Another time, Mom said, she answered the phone and then told me she couldn't talk because she was halfway through a coffee enema. What do you think halfway through an enema means? I could see that the compliment was misunderstanding, sure, but they were both unwilling to give the other a break. They always assumed the worst. For many years, I tried to explain one to the other. The reason, of course, my reason, of course, was selfish. I wanted them to love each other and not to form a family. For me. Once my mom called me and said, your aunt is sick. She told me to rent this movie that supposedly is an award winner about people masturbating into a fruit pie. I could imagine, because I watched feminist-only porn with Sydney, but I never told my mom about that. My aunt had taught at the university. She introduced me to Rachel Carson and Ingmar Bergman, pronounced Bergman. She taught me to deconstruct classic literature. Maybe the movie Mom watched was had some deep meaning that mirrored the ills of patriarchy, or maybe my aunt had set her up. What was the movie called, I asked? American Pie! My mother's outrage, the great indulgence of eating the Western, was high. I understood then what had happened. My aunt had recommended American Beauty. I filmed that year, but my mother had gone to the video store in that small town and made American Pie by mistake. The short was probably a grandchild of someone from the Lutheran church my grandma attended regularly. For all I knew, the family across from me were members of that church. In the Midwest, God existed only for people like them, not people like me. Someone all alone, someone who occasionally watched feminist-friendly porn, introduced to her by her aunt at 14 as a self-sexing tool, someone who questioned everything, but the most shameful thing, the thing that rarely bothered me in Portland, I was someone without a family. My chest felt heavy, I bent into my knees. We're not taking out our feelings and giving her pure animals. I thought you might come here to be with me, I said with my teeth together. Sydney yelled something, but with my thumb, I clicked the disconnect button on my phone. I waited a second and said, okay then, see you soon, bye-bye. And tucked the phone back between my palms. The family across the room all sat stock still. They were too polite to even look at me.
Just stroke it a little.
Is that working down there? Okay. On later. Patrick Olivia has been a thorn in the side of prudes, federal obscenity prosecutors, separatists, and gender essentialists ever since the early 1980s when he published Tapestry, a lesbian sex manual that dared to include butch, femme couples, and SNL. And he's also written Macho Sluts, a collection of explicit love-erotic fiction. Until his 40s, when he transitioned from female to male, Khalifa was a grassroots organizer of a women's kink community and an outspoken sex-positive feminist. As an elder in many marginalized communities, author of Public Sex and a dozen other books, is still critiquing the larger society, writing fiction that focuses on people who are considered to be too different to matter, for the simple reason that we do matter. Please welcome Patrick.
Thank you, sir.
Such a privilege to be here. Let's see if I can get along with the microphone. They're kind of like most phallic symbols. A microphone is either too far away to do any good, or it's so close to your face that it becomes a little uncomfortable, and a certain amount of performance anxiety begins to build. So, yes, I'm going to read from a memoir that I've been trying to finish for like 10 years. And I'm going to read from the first chapter. I think I've got it timed down to 10 minutes, but if I overstay my welcome, please don't have someone come up on stage and tell me to leave. That happened the last time I read in Washington, D.C. at a burlesque show, where they apparently wanted to wear leather on stage but not have any of the dirty details of the fiction.
You will not be taken off.
You know how that goes. Okay, so this is different than most of the other things I've written, so let me try to get into the mood a little bit. My father has a knife. It is longer than both of my hands. The handle is brown and white and full of interesting bumps, hollows, peaks, and crannies. That's elkhorn pard, my dad tells me, getting ready to sharpen his knife at the kitchen table. My mother is doing the dishes. Her back is turned toward us, and she does not approve of my father, his knife, the whetstone, or the fact that I am so close, watching him with rapt fascination. I am maybe 5 years old, and I have no idea how often my father and I are going to spend time with weapons in front of us on the kitchen table. He carefully drips some pungent oil onto the slightly grainy, dark gray whetstone. It has sharp angles. It is precisely manufactured. It is something from the men's world, not the women's world. He opens the knife by gripping the handle and flipping it hard, and the blade shoots out like the dagger tongue of a lightning-breathing dragon. He puts the blade on the whetstone, lays it down the way I lay my head down on my pillow at night. Then he lifts it a little. Just a hair, he pronounces. Not 2 hairs, just a hair. It has to be just right or you'll ruin the edge. And there's no point in carrying a blunt blade. You remember that, stud. There's no point in carrying a blunt blade, I whispered to myself. That night I will dream about the witch again. She is always chasing me, but I can't run away because I'm carrying both of my little sisters, and they're screaming at me, their hands dragging at my hair and upper arms, begging to be saved. Don't put me down, each one of them wails. Run away! But I do put them down. I shove them behind me like brown paper bags full of canned soup and powdered milk. I turn to face my skeletal adversary. She is surprised to see the other side of me, my face instead of my back. And in my hand I have a knife. So I stab her and stab her and stab her, and she dies on the path. Falls to the ground, gushing blood. Her body is limp and thin as the skin of a popped balloon. I pick my sisters up and carry them away to safety, and I know that I will never have this nightmare again. But for now, I'm watching my father, listening to the sound of the steel against the stone. Just like kissing cousins, he grunts, concentrating on his chore. The film of oil between them almost sucks up all the sound. I have to hold my breath to hear it. It is a granular sound, the sound of change, refinement, improvement, danger. The knife and the stone are as close as 2 people kissing, but I like this carefully controlled scraping even more. I understand why my dad would want to sharpen his knife. I don't understand why anybody would want to kiss anybody else. It's sticky, and I hate being picked up and squeezed unless it's my dad who is handling me. It occurs to me that I am like the oil between the stone and the knife. I'm always in between my mother and my father, trying to ease the friction between them. Her religion and his fishing trips. Her religion and his cursing. Her religion and his chewing tobacco. The oil on the knife is useful. It works. I can never make lunch at work. I know that my parents are not going to stay married. My dad tests his knife on the calloused edge of his thumb. There's a bright line of blood. Then he shaves a few hairs off his arm, but his arm doesn't bleed. "You ought to be able to cut a single hair in half lengthwise," he says with satisfaction, and flips it shut, one-handed. The masculine grace of this careless gesture utterly captivates me. It seems to sum up everything that is powerful and repellent about my dad. He uses that knife to cut rope, gut fish, trim willow sticks to cook marshmallows on, and a million other useful things. My father always has a tool in his pocket. He can use it to change the world. My mother doesn't have anything in her pocket. She doesn't change the world. She just cleans up the messes that other people have left behind. She does have sewing pins stuck in her blouse that will prick you if you make the mistake of trying to hug her. One day, I found my daddy's knife on the coffee table. It was open. I picked it up. The handle was sharp and yet smooth, and I spent a lot of time pondering the horn, trying to imagine what the elk could look like who had lost his antlers to make my dad this magnificent implement. You see, my dad killed things. He hunted for pheasant, deer, rainbow trout, rabbits, and he brought them home and skinned them and took out their guts. And my mom cooked them and we ate them. He even hunted during the wintertime when we were not supposed to do that. He went into the mountains with the other men on his crew from the coal mine, and they came back with meat for their families because their freezers were empty and their children and wives were going hungry. Game wardens looked the other way. My favorite color was red, the color of deer blood on the snow in our backyard. I knew that this open knife was not supposed to be on the table. It was a good thing I had found it instead of one of the little kids. My dad said that you had to close the pocket knife to protect the sharp edge you had put on the blade, so I thought I had better close it. I wanted to flick it shut the way my dad had done, but I couldn't maneuver it back with one hand. So I put the back of the blade against the table, wrapped my fist around the handle, and began to force it closed. My mother slapped me away from the table. I fell on my side. My face hurt and I was caught with humiliation. How dare she hit me again? "Don't you know you're about to cut your fingers off?" she spat. I began to cry. I wanted her to feel sorry for hurting me, and I was doubly humiliated now because I had not realized I was about to hurt myself. I thought I was doing what my father did. I hadn't realized he kept his fingers away from the slot that housed the blade when he flipped it shut. I had failed, for the first time but not the last, to be able to equal or imitate him. I didn't have his strength or grace or his adult intelligence. My mother may have comforted me, I don't remember. If she did, it was perfunctory, because she was in a hurry to pick up the knife and take it to my father and chew him out for leaving it where a child could find it. In the 21-year war that waged between them, I was usually on her side, but I didn't start out there. As a child, I thought I still had some chance of getting my dad's affection or approval and keeping it. I thought if I could be fast enough, brave enough, strong enough, he would see that I was his oldest son and loved me best of all. But here I was, causing trouble for him again. My ignorance turned into a sword in my mother's hand, Exhibit A in her next outburst of verbal battery. If my mother thought she could scare me away from that pocket knife, she was wrong. I would routinely go through my dad's pockets while he slept. He sometimes worked swing shift or graveyard at the mine, so he was asleep while I was awake. I would sniff his brown can of chewing tobacco sometimes even dare to open it and stare at the dark tusk of forbidden skull. There was a pale blue ring on the back right pocket of all his jeans, where the can of skull had made its bad mark, as provocative as the anchor tattooed on his bicep. I would take out his pocket rock, a polished slice of white agate that looked like it had a black flower growing in the middle of it. And I would half the knife, weigh it in my hand. It felt like a promise, something I would grow into, something meant to be mine. I loved it and I was afraid of it, just the way I felt when I would repeat his first words in private if I was lucky enough to get a few minutes away from my tattletale baby sisters. God damn it, I would whisper. Damn it to hell. Shit. I would feel ridiculous for not knowing what these words meant and for my feeble impersonation of my father's stormy emotional life. But I also felt like a priest reciting my vows to an unseen God. And if I wasn't speaking to the Heavenly Father, dressed all in white, that my mother had spying on me, I must be talking to the other guy, and we all knew who he was. He had horns, just like the elk that was made into the handle of the pocket knife. Like Superman or Dracula or Frankenstein, I was stranded among mundane people who were suspicious and violent. Soon they would discover that I was a monster, and then they would hunt me and catch me and torture and kill me. Was it any wonder that I thought I needed a knife? And I want to say that community is so valuable because without it, we do feel like we're monsters stranded among the mundane, you know? And when I was growing up, my heroes were people like William Burroughs and the poet Allen Ginsberg, who wrote Howl, because both of them had gone to court to defend their work against obscenity charges. And it's because of these gay male authors that we have so much latitude with the written word in this country today.
Yes.
I mean, prosecutors basically stopped bringing cases against the written word in America because they realized that they couldn't win most cases. But all those laws are still in the books. And when Canadian Customs started seizing my work, along with copies of The Advocate, anything that mentioned anal sex between men, and Andrew Dworkin's work, which I thought was really funny. Does anybody remember Andrew Dworkin?
Yes.
Anti-porn feminist and hating women, yes. Okay, well, I wound up going to Vancouver to testify in that trial. And first of all, it was funny to think that someone in a little powdered wig imagined that they could represent authority. And in Canada, they give you a choice. You don't have to swear on the Bible before you give your testimony. And I think that knowing that your work is getting confiscated and burned is a horrible feeling. But when you have community, if there's attack, you can do something about it. If there's censorship, you can do something about it. And together, you can work to make the written word so powerful that nobody can tell you that it isn't literature.
Yes.
So that we can get
Thank you, Patrick. We're going to take a short break. 10 minutes. We still have 7 readers, and we have to be done by 7. So go pee, where we drink, smoke, combine some of those things together into one if you have to. They'll be back in 10 minutes.
Once you went over, so good. Congratulations, so good.
Mark Sanford Gross is 1/3 New York, 1/3 DC, and 1/3 San Francisco. Mark was published in 2nd grade with his poem about knishes. I would like to read that. Are you reading it tonight? He retired from corporate smog in 2015. I like that, corporate smog. Along with his circus of voices, contemporary artist husband Billy, and Hungarian dog Wolf, that's Wolf with an exclamation point in print. They moved remote to live beside the ocean with ravens and sea lions as neighbors. Back east, his 2 daughters continue to define him. Injected with the Lydia Yukevich team adrenaline, Mark is writing out his memoir. He also writes for LASplash.com. An advocate of energy and optimism, he avoids what ifs and looking back, always suffocating an introverted ghost. Welcome, Mark Sanford Gross.
Thank you, Kevin, Colin, John, all these great writers and leaders, and Tom, including me here. And this is a slice of a segment of a memoir in progress. Microphone. Oh, the mic in. Is that better?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a slice of a memoir in progress, like all of them. And here we go. Dialogue. I pulled away from the people just before he knocked. Tap, tap. I rubbed my eye, wiped my palm against the back pocket of my khakis. Opened the door like it was the housekeeper making her last round. Hey, Ellen, I'm Calvin. Hi. Damn, he's cute. Come on in. He accepted with an indistinct nod. Phew, quite a storm raging. The door was closing into his shoulder. I didn't think he'd be so slow down. Not gonna happen. If Chrissy called, it could be only an emergency. One of the kids. It was later back home. He was barely over the threshold when the door latched. Where can I put this? He asked, wiggling his slim physique out of a generic raincoat. Ah, I got it. He hung the coat by its foot on the doorknob, drops sweeping to the carpet. He's waiting out the rain. Another all-talk hookup going past the need for excuses. He unclipped the hang tag, opened the door, placed it in the outside slot, and helped the door close softly. Wow, he didn't even think about it. I'm getting hard. Shit. Oh, do not disturb, or please make up the room. We stood in decision-making space like characters on music boxes. No problem downstairs? I'm here. I wish his face would say something. Can I use your restroom? He's in. Should I move aside? No, I'll go ahead. Figure out where to sit or stand. Sure, over there. If he stays, he'll sit in the chair, unless I take it now. He won't sit on the bed. I'll stand. The footrest is too low. He may also stand, say a few generic things, and then go. He squeezed against me opposite the mini fridge and the single-cup coffee maker, his draft lingering. My jeans never fit that way. And the t-shirt tucked in? I walked to the skyline, stories above a diffused lit billboard. I wiped across the window, something about resolutions. Wow, almost 1997. I stretched my neck to see the bathroom. He pulled the door closed behind him, but the catch hadn't emerged. Engaged. Returning to watch a muted winter storm, I listened to sounds behind me. How is he holding his cock? Did he drop his pants? Or fumble through flaps? I imagine boxers, geometric pattern. Would he come out exposed or go for the coat? Sit, stand, lean against the heater, but it's been on all night. You don't want him asking, cold ass? Here he comes. Thanks, parking was difficult. Only a few spots until 2 a.m. He just said 2 a.m. Nah, he's gonna leave soon. No problem. I chose the window ledge, chill leaking in between my shoulders, hot air blowing up my lower back. He's eyeing the chair, I knew it. He moved without indication, nudged away the ottoman, gripped the armrests, dropped onto the cushion, settled back, his belt unhooked. Thanks for the invite. Thank you for coming, showing up. He raised one eyebrow. So you're married? Yeah. To a woman, right? Yes. You keep your ring on. Afraid you might lose it. I always keep it on. Happy? Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't? Really? The chat room I found you in suggests otherwise. Boy next door 69 said. So 40. 44. Why lie about 4 years? Wait, is he saying I could go for more? And him, he looks so young. I thought he said 27. Thank you, and it's Michael. Who's Alan? Never mind. Are you meeting someone else? No, why? You're so fidgety. Do you want me to go? No, stay, sorry. Well then, take a seat. I backed off the heater, walked in front of him, perched on the mattress. And you said straight? Uh-huh, yeah, totally. I don't think so, Alan. Michael. He peered into me. Bisexual? Uh-uh. And that curious excuse? Total bullshit, Mr. 4044. He rose up and took my hand. Come along. I followed him until he short-stopped me on the stone threshold of the bathroom. Stand here. He wrapped his arms around my guts, lowered his chin on my neck, and spoke into one ear. No straight guy uses all that product. He said, pointing deliberately at one side of the sink. Hair, hair, face, face. Another hair thing. Hand, prescription, and your dop kit is bulging. I worried about my breath. It had been a while since I ate mint after mint watching him walk from the elevator. Dry skin, weather changes make it worse. And I used the rest, for my hair. He brought me onto the cold tile, shifted me about face. His exhale dusting my lips. As he rubbed both hands across my scalp, I thought of finger painting. There, he turned me, stood looking over my shoulder. I like it. You? I couldn't watch my mouth answer him, and me, and us. Seeing them together made me feel unequal. I was unable to speak, watching him witness me. 1 second, 2, 3, he let me out. Now he sits on the bed. He folded back in the chair. I sunk into disappointment. It's all a tease. What if the phone rings now? He relaxed backward, widened thighs to a horizontal V. His folding fingers reminded me of my grandfather shuffling cards. I sat on the bed with my legs off the floor, joined fists to hide my middle-aged neck, contorted into posture to show interest in more talk. PM changed to AM as we crafted words, until there were mostly pauses. He slanted his head. Well, I guess it's time to, boom, we're done. Just like the other times with someone like him. Yeah, it's late. I hate this part. Maybe just Jack and SF is still online. Almost choreographed, we got up and started moving. Oh, you want me to leave? No, I didn't mean that. It just seems like you. He pushed just enough for me to fall back onto the bed. My elbows reflexed me halfway up. He was standing against the edge. I wanted to lick his pants. I thought that was weird in porn. He moved both hands to his belt, pulled apart the beginning and the end. 2 fingers squeezed the waist button. Pop. My name really is Calvin. Pop. I'm a second-year lawyer. Pop. I have a boyfriend. Also Michael. Never Alan. We're breaking up. The bottom button took extra effort. Pop, I think you're adorable. Much better without all that shit. His penis pulsing. I was right about boxers. Wrong about the designer. Using one foot at a time to bunch down the pant legs, he kicked them aside. Stood in unintimidating confidence. Can I fuck you now, Mr. Married, not Alan, not straight 44-year-old guy, like we talked about online? He patted my crotch. Straight, Try explaining that to your erection. Listening to a rally of echoes behind my eyes, I shut them tight. You have got to speak up now, Big Sean.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Mark. I'm so lucky to introduce our next reader. One of my favorite memories from when I spent in New York was working in an internship that our next wonderful reader, Kathleen Lane, got me. She got me this internship, that was her agent, and I was actually there when her agent came back from lunch and told me that she had sold her book, The Best Worst Thing, which was just kind of an amazing thing to be a part of, and just kind of, at the time I really loved publishing at that point. So anyways, now I'll introduce her with their bio. Kathleen Lane is going to finish her short story collection by the end of the summer. Or, well, maybe next summer. She also wrote the middle grade novel, The Best Worst Thing. Hell yeah! Woo! Yeah! And a young adult manuscript that she's a little afraid of. She's thankful to Tom's Fanbar for many reasons, but especially the lesson that it's okay to be lost in the wilderness. Please welcome Kathleen Lane.
Y'all are so nice, seriously. Tom, little did you know when you told me that I would be lost for about 14 years straight after that. So I'm gonna read, first of all, thank you, Donnie, of course. Love you. I'm gonna read two very tiny stories, which seems to be all I can write these days. They're each about, one's 2 pages and one's 1 page. And this first one is kind of about feeling lost, and maybe some of you can relate. It's called Seeking Joy on Hill Behind New Haven Village Townhomes. Maybe it's here, on this rock. Sit on rock, sun on face. Sun up where sun is supposed to be. Amazing, life-giving sun. Vitamin D giving sun. Tomato and radish giving sun. Sun a little hot on face, actually. And no sunscreen to block out harmful rays, to protect face from melanoma, prevent painful early death. This girl I knew in high school died in her 20s from melanoma. Sun also life-taking, Kimmy-taking. Better to face away from sun. Sun on back feels nicer anyway. Although pretty hot on back too. Feels like black shirt is melting onto skin. Probably leaching deadly chemicals from Chinese t-shirt factory. But silver lining, it could be raining. Rain with no raincoat, no umbrella. Though a little rain would definitely be nice. Just enough to put out fire on back. Just one tiny rain cloud to rinse deadly Chinese chemicals from skin. That would be perfect. is perfection the key to joy? No. Being okay with what is, that is the key to joy. Replacing jagged rock with smooth rock might bring more comfort to tailbone. Better back alignment for sure. No back pain tomorrow. No $50 copay to chiropractor, but it will not bring joy. Temporary joy, yes, but not true joy, not lasting joy. Also, I can just sit in front of rock, lean back on rock. Not really lean because rock is not tall enough, but rest head on rock, like a pillow, like a really hard pillow. Not a position I could hold for long, plus might cause head bruising, probably migraines tomorrow. But not bad, not terrible. Good back stretch, like rock yoga. Hot rock yoga could be a new thing. Put hands together on rock, push up, downward rock dog. Swoop head down, head through arms, ow. Upward rock dog, hard to do without scraping forehead on rock. Could be worse though. Could have scraped lips on rock, or even eyeball on rock. And what is a little blood on forehead? Pain is only a reminder that all must suffer. Without suffering, without occasional scraping of forehead on rock, there can be no joy. I have found joy, and it is right here on this rock. Right here beside this rock. Kind of leaning elbow on rock while wiping blood from forehead or t-shirt because I have no t-shirt. I have no tissue. I am tissueless. What are tissues though but material possessions? There is no meaning in material possessions. Meaning is when you are content without material possessions. Meaning is leaning against rock with no tissues, no sunscreen, no raincoat, no umbrella, no first aid kit, even though t-shirt does not seem to be stopping bleeding. No water, which I could definitely use right now, like I'm starting to feel kind of lightheaded, like I think I might pass out. But say I do pass out, say I pass out right now and knock on rock. A mountain lion comes along and eats me for dinner. That would not be good. Cool story for kids, probably make national news, but definitely do not want to be eaten by a mountain lion. But say I do die tonight, knock. Well, at least I could say that I have found joy and meaning. I have found joy and meaning right here on this rock, right here beside this rock, right here kind of curled up in front of this rock. One-page story that some of you have heard or read before, but reading it anyway. And I'll warn you, it's about 98% really depressing and 2% hopeful, and I hope that you'll hear the hopeful part of that.
We will listen from the rock.
It's called After the End. The bakery was the last building standing, and so everyone gathered around its 2.5 walls. Its one miraculous window. They took turns walking up to what was left of the counter, ordering biscuits and scones from the unblinking baker, now floured in ash. One line of red you could trace up his apron to a flap of skin hanging from his chin. The biscuits and scones had been reduced to black pebbles, and nobody seemed sure what to do with them, why they wanted them. Some licked. Others, with nothing left to carry, cupped them like eggs, like answers. The children were the most inventive, building palaces around the pebbles, summoning 6-horned beasts to guard them. The pebbles were magic, they said. Yes, if you plant them, new buildings will grow. You'll see, Papa. We'll have a city again. Their older siblings told them to shut the fuck up, but their parents, bent with the weight of their grief, could not make words, could barely make nods. Only the elderly helped in the sewing, twisting their bent fingers into the earth to make the holes, covering with soot the seeds planted by the children, watering each new planting with what spit they could coax from their tongues. They made their way along the road, sowing a pebble where yesterday they bought milk, a pebble where Sunday they would sit the long, dull hours of Mass, a reluctant pebble for the doctor's office, an extra pebble for the toy shop, and on they went into the red light of evening, until the mothers and fathers could bear no longer the sight of their foolish hope, and rose like cinder block to their work. Thank you.
Before I introduce our next reader, I just wanted to say thank you to another Burnt Home staple, Adam Strong, for doing video for us. He's been here recording video of all these performances for 5 years now and posting them to YouTube and showing me how I'm getting progressively balder and balder in these harsh lights. Thank you very much. I love you. So our next reader is Gigi Little. Gigi's essays and short stories have appeared in journals and anthologies including Portland Noir, Spent, the Pacific Northwest Reader, and she's also the editor of the collection City Weird 30 Otherworldly Portland Tales. She's also a freelance book cover designer and a staff designer for Forest Avenue Press. By day, she works as a marketing merchandising coordinator for Powell's Books and lives with her husband, fine artist Stephen O'Donnell, and their chihuahua Nicholas. And actually, she lives with them by night, too. Gigi Little.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Dami. Thank you, Brad and Adam. Thank you to the bastard that made me follow Kathleen Lane. He always made me follow Kathleen Lane.
Whoever introduced the alphabet.
Oh, my fault.
I'm pretty sure the alphabet is created by Peter.
That's true. I love you, Tom. Safe. Steve reminded me to take my glasses off so I could see. I thought I would read the opening to my novel. This is the thing that comes after the thing that came before. That's important for me to keep reminding myself because yes, I may be feeling a little freaked out right now. My hands might be shaking, the spotlight might be blinding me so I can't see where I am on the stage. My heart might be beating me above the head and shoulders, but none of this comes close to being anywhere near as bad as the thing that came before. Man, these spotlights. Back in rehearsals in the studio, no one bothered to say, hey, once you get on stage and are stuck doing this in front of an audience, that spotlight is going to be rocking you in the head the whole time. Like this thick, you can feel it. I don't mean heat, I mean touch. All along the rims of your pupils and spreading out across your face a big, sweaty palm of light. It's got hold of your head. It's trying to pull you off stage into the seats. You don't know why you ever thought you could get away with trying to be in the opera in the first place. It might be time to go all over your opera shoes. They're red pumps, actually. There's no such thing as opera shoes, not like ballet slippers or anything. I hold my pose. Spine straight, chin up, eyes out into the bright blank beyond the stage. Hand on my hip, my sexy pose. That's what the director said to us women, pose sexy. He said, move around, do what comes natural. He said, have fun with it. He said, use whatever va-va-voom you got in your bag of tricks. My hand on my hip, that's pretty much my whole bag of tricks. And with a sweaty palm of light slapped over my face, I can hardly move. It's that hypnosis thing that happens when your senses are overloaded, that and I might have a teensy bit of stage fright. You wouldn't think anything as trivial as stage fright would freak me out after the thing that came before. But I don't know anything about acting, and I don't really like people looking at me, and this wig is so heavy it's pushing my neck down into my chest, so my idiot heart is whamming right up against my throat. Okay, yes, this is only dress rehearsal, what of it? There's still an audience. Every person in the production gets 2 free tickets, so the house is full of friends and loved ones. My friend gave me one of her passes, so I have not 2 but 3 loved ones out there scrutinizing me from the seats. And they give out invitations to high schools all over Portland, so teenagers who've never seen the opera before come out in jackets and ties and prom dresses, so excited about their first taste of high culture. Maybe I can conveniently faint and fall into the orchestra pit and break my neck on a cello and die. I think I'm supposed to move or something. I don't remember how to use my muscles. Someone grabs me from behind, hand on my shoulder, he pulls me back from the light, turns me toward him. I swear I can feel the rending of the light, of the air as I'm sucked free. He's wearing a vest and a tri-corn hat. Putty smooth stage makeup, skin, and eyeliner thick around his lashes. The chorister stopped singing long enough to whisper in a deep kiss that could only come from the belly of an opera singer. Come on, you're supposed to be flirting. Like I've ever known how to do that. I take my hand off my hip, put it on the chorister's shoulder. I try to think of how to be sexy. Swivel my butt around until the chorister's eyebrows press a wrinkle in his forehead, which means that's not helping. Then I take my hand off his shoulder and put it back on my hip. But the music. I say light could touch, that's nothing compared to the music. You try posing with an orchestra at your feet and a chorus all around, and a 5-foot-tall opera singer posing and belting Carmen behind your left ear, and see if you don't discover new ways of being touched. I don't have to sing. Oh dear God, no. You wouldn't want me up here singing. I'm a super, which sounds great, but really that just means I'm an extra. Supernumerary is the complete word. In the opera, you've got your principal vocalist, your secondary vocalist, your chorus, and lastly, you've got your supers. You mostly play people in the crowd, warriors, soldiers, townsfolk, prostitutes. I get to play a prostitute in that too. That is, if they don't kick me out for going catatonic during dress rehearsal. We don't get paid, but we get the chance to see and hear the opera from the inside out, which is strange and gorgeous and worth buckets of money in my book once you get past the terror thing. I gave one of my dress rehearsal tickets to Mom. I'm so glad she could make it. Okay, I'm horrified. Not so much that she'll see me up here sucking as a super, but that she'll talk through the whole thing, make comments like, that's my daughter up there, to the people sitting next to her, that she'll crinkle wrappers and eat potato chips out of her purse while Carmen is singing the bird song. Then she'll find out I lied to her. It wasn't a big lie, but lies adhere to a particular kind of mathematics, the exponential kind. See, I lied to Elizabeth too. A different lie, but one that will compound with a lie I lied to Mom and make both lies way worse. Okay, I lied. The lie I told Mom was a big lie. Really, really big. It was about the thing that came before. Elizabeth is out there too, somewhere in the seats. They're not sitting together, but they could come together and meet during intermission. Well, hi, Elizabeth. I'm so sorry to hear about your illness. So, okay, I lied to Mom about that too. So, okay, I lied to Mom about a bunch of things. But sometimes you have to lie to keep the peace, to keep the sanity. Elizabeth is out there, and Mom is out there, and dear God in heaven, Danny is out there, and the lie I told of Danny, if it comes in contact with the lie I told Elizabeth, or the lie I told Mom, man, it's hot here. And my singing soldier just spit on me for the second time. I make a curtsy and step away. Moving away puts the lift of freedom back into the banging of my stage fright heart, steps me a little bit away from the lies beyond the spotlight. But when I turn, the soldier who stops me, who clamps his hand down on my shoulder, is Fuller. The smile I give him, that's a lie too. Alright, so I haven't been quite upfront with any of them, but I had good reason, a whole lot of good reasons, and I never lie in a way that will hurt anyone. Trust me. Fuller is singing, but he's not looking over my head into the audience. He's looking straight at me. Fuller, the man to whom I told the biggest lie of all. In this spotlight, the pupils of his dark, deep-set eyes are shrunk to decimal points. The sound of Fuller's voice is deep molasses drenching down to my toes. He presses his thumb into the flesh under my collarbone, presses hard, and the jolt of pain that runs down meets the jolt of remorse that runs up my body in answer to it. Remorse, the strange response to the touch of a brute like Fuller. But this is as it should be. This is the thing that comes after the thing that came before. Mom in the seats, and Mildred and Danny in the seats, and me on the stage in the moment where two of the opposing jolts meet in the middle of me, in the place I'm afraid to touch because what lies there is the truth. What, the thing that came before, I'm not ready to talk about that.
Before I introduce our next reader, I have to thank somebody who's a real asshole. It's the local Bradley K. Rosenberg. Sam has been doing this forever. Thank you so much for having me. Our next reader, Sam Pringer, is a New York native currently living in Portland with his best friend and his 4-pound geriatric rat dog. His poems appeared in Split Lip, Event Horizon, U.S. Poetry, and other publications. He holds an MFA from Duke University and assists a team of Mail magazine, acting as a submission manager. Mostly, we just try to be happy. Please welcome Sam Pringer.
Thanks so much for having me here. Just wanted to mention grateful I am to get to be a part of this, both this fucking awesome lineup of readers and the community that's come together around this series and doing something good, or something. So I got some poems for you all. And this first one is titled Aftermath. We couldn't have known what was coming back then. After math class, when you and I used to escape across the unkempt courtyard, climbing the high school's rickety fence towards Front Street to purchase fat sandwiches, which we'd later eat in your backyard. I'm there, throw a frisbee for your dog. A Saint Bernard would chase that flimsy plastic disc any place, even when, more than once, we sent it sailing intentionally over your parents' pool. This was a game we convinced ourselves she loved. Her body suddenly submerged below water, wet leaves. Looking back, these probably weren't our best days, but worse were to come. The cicadas of summer tunneling upwards even then, exhuming their bodies from the dirt, cluttering the sky, composing insidious symphonies, shedding shells of skeleton, but let's not go there yet. Let's stay here instead, always in your yard. The April sun never setting, our sandwiches never soggy. You can tell your dog to do that one trick where she remains forever, flex above the pool, floppy jowls lifted like useless wings, and mouth half open for the only thing she sees, that motionless shape of a blue frisbee. Next one also deals with reflecting a bit on being younger. This goes way back further than that one, to when I was a kid. It's about specifically being a kid, being a Jewish kid, and first being told about the Holocaust. And it's called They Told Me About the Holocaust. No, I can't remember the way that it happened. It couldn't have been my parents breaking the news, defining the word. A friend must have told me in a joke. Like Bobby said, what could be worse than being a Jew in Nazi Germany? No one showed me the pictures, though they all knew. There were millions of pictures, elegies etched already into the slab, a gravestone headboard behind each of our beds. It's been said too many times. Grandfather fled on the morning after the night that he and his cousin, arm on shoulder, stumbled out from the bar, straight into Gestapo, got pulled aside, their shapes broken apart by black uniforms. What could be worse than being his cousin who didn't come home that night, 79 years back? But today, my parents are buying me video games, collector's cards, letting me sleep in the slim cavity of bed between them. Nothing, Bobby's punchline spurts. Nothing, running off into laughter, and my friend's expectant smile. This one is titled Autopsy for Everyone Romantic. Whistling blissfully down the street while our neighborhood burns, you look beautiful tonight. And how could we be any happier with our freckles and tea, discussing tragedies of the week as if we'd studied evil, as a genome or a phage on the glass in a lab, as if evil could ever sit still. The summer blockbuster had been charming. Our dinner lost none of its taste. We admired the sunset, though we couldn't see the sun set for the city and trees stabbing into the sky. We told each other it must have been brilliant, like a sacred book we were too lazy to interpret, or the impact of an atomic blast seen from safety, that place always further away. I just have one last piece I'd like to end on. It's called The Window. Ryan is only 8 years old, standing in the hallway of a hospital. His baby sister has just been born, and as he looks through the nursery window, he realizes he doesn't know which of the infants is her. To be safe, he decides to love them all. And, deciding this, he wonders if he can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I now have the pleasure of introducing a master physician, Amy Temple Harper. Amy is a Korean adopted writer who teaches film and writing at Portland State University. That is it. That is the entire bio. Please welcome Amy Temple Harper.
to be in front of this audience. I'm honored to meet Tom Samuel. And I've been writing a memoir. I wanted it to have something to do with race or whatever, but I mean, I'm Asian, but this is all I got for you. I'll just tell you a little background. I'm from Korea. I was adopted into an all-white family in a small white town in Silverton. So if you look for some context, you might find it here. This is actually called holes. Holes. The rumors have been flying since I was 8 years old. Now I was 12. It might have been the 80s. That was when my friend Christy Johnson said her sister got her period and had to put a stick up her hole. I called her a liar and then promptly ran home and took a look at my crotch in the mirror. No. There was no way a stick would fit up my peephole. She couldn't have possibly meant poop hole, could she? No. I wish there was some way to find out the truth, but I wouldn't dare ask my mom. And it never occurred to ask my dad. He wouldn't know about women's holes. He spent most of his time alone at the table after dinner, drinking beer and studying reports. There were no reports. He studied about holes. Who else might know? My friend Lucy. I asked her right away. She asked her mother. Her mother gave her a children's book about sex. We looked at it assiduously. You see? That is where the man puts his wiener in the girl's middle hole and pees. Middle hole? I ran home again and looked at my crotch in the mirror. It was like discovering Santa Claus wasn't real. We had heard it might be the case, but we didn't know people could hide it for so long. This chapter's called I Love Shoes. Lucy and I spent many secret afternoons reenacting the sex scenes we saw in her book. Her mother had a fabulous shoe collection in her closet, and while we were trying on her shoes one day, we found another sex book called Joy of Sex. I just love shoes. I'm not just saying that, I mean, I really love shoes. The joy of sex taught us so much. We spent days studying positions and got pretty good at trying them out on each other. Sometimes we'd go into the shoe closet and shut the door and pretend we were doing it. We usually took turns being the man or the woman. Now, it was my turn to be the man. So I crammed a big rolled up gym socket and put it in my pants. That was my wiener. Then I mounted her fully clothed. We knew if we both took our clothes off, that would make it just plain weird. We were mortally afraid that her mother would come looking for a pair of shoes to wear and found us instead naked, not to mention barefoot, in her shoe closet. I was humping and usually I would say, I am peeing in you now. And that would be that. But this time, all that intense humping friction gave me such a strange, wonderful feeling that I forgot to say, I am peeing in you now. Lucy looked at me oddly and said, what's wrong? I was breathless and heaving at the same time. I had never felt so euphoric in my life. It must have something to do with the shoes. Lucy
interrupted my moments of ecstasy to ask again, "What's wrong with you?" I replied, "I don't know. Let's do it again."
I know about the socks.
Our next reader was born and raised in Oregon, married, my son Harry, studied the tongue in the 2000s. She went on to receive an MFA at Antioch University and is currently one of Concordia writers. She is also a member of one of Portland's premier writers groups, along with Lee Cottage, Monica Drake, Chelsea Kane, Susie Vitello, and Chuck Collin. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in Perceptions magazine, Self-World Review, and Have a Good Review. Please welcome Joanna Latson.
You actually did okay with my name. It's pretty close. So this is a prose poem that was inspired by a writing exercise at one of the corporeal workshops.
What?
One of the corporeal workshops.
Oh, no, that was me saying, what?
You know? But I never could have written it without time. So, it's called Oceans. It's in 4 parts. 1. The ocean, vile and white, rolls in hard against my father's back. Our sweatshirts of red and orange and yellow stand out against the gray-blue sky that is the same color as the ocean that hits the rocks and splashes icy cold against our cheeks. Starfish cling to the rocks, their tangerine to scarlet to indigo colors, bright suns in this world of gray. Our father is working hard to pry a starfish loose, while the ocean breaks around him. We begged and begged to have a starfish, images of its brilliance radiating in our minds, while father, his face lined with fury, struggles against a clinging sun-colored fish so that we will not beg, though our begging has changed to pleading and then to crying, because we are afraid of the ocean breaking gray-blue cold against our father's back. 2. There is a place by the ocean, old forest divided from the mainland by a river. Trails twist around the mountain, leading to mosquito lakes and overlooks. The beach is inaccessible except to those of us with boats. During the day, when the sun dazzles off the water, we teenagers cross the river, our voices bright with friends. At sunset, our families join us. The smell of burning marshmallows fills the air. As we eat, we feel gritty sand beneath our teeth. When night falls, dull and weary from the day spent crisscrossing through the oceans, full of drink and sex, we sit on a log before the fire and listen to our father tell bold stories of his youth. He is a mighty silhouette, the fire highlighting his delight. He is Zeus holding a thunderbolt, and his voice breaks back the ocean's roar. But we only pretend to listen. The 4 of us are more intent on our secret bittersweet beer, our fire-hot feet buried in the wet, cold sand, and the closeness of our friends' bodies in the dark. 3. Banjo and guitar play in the lodge, and music and voices bounce, drowning out all conversation but merriment. Bride and groom stand under an arch. Out on the deck, white balloons sway in the wind. Mother has brought flowers, and they are everywhere, their brilliant scent mixing with the sea salt air. Below the lodge, out on the beach, the ocean breaks. We are clearing off. Where there were 4, now there are 8. Our partners change, then stay the same. While at the beach, we take long walks and listen to the surf. The hard, wet sand feels good beneath our feet as we watch our babies and toddlers run and call in high-pitched voices. Father's hair is gray and growing thin. He smiles as he watches the children. When they beg for starfish, he says best not go in, and points at the great gray waves that crash and hit the rocks. 4. There will be no sunset because of the thick fog bank. Father walks the beach with a cane, his fat dog lumbering before him. We follow behind, adults sorry for our father's aging. We watch his unsteady feet. This is not our glorious spot. There are people on this beach with loud voices and cigarettes. When his dog runs to them, Father growls out her name. She comes back, waggling her sloppy, wet tail, despite the viciousness in his voice. The deep fog rolls in and up the bank. The day grows cold. The dog, her tongue wagging, pants deeply as she weaves between our legs. Our teenage children call to her, but she remains with Father. The creases in Father's face soften as he pats her head. We listen to the surf, its sound muted by the air's thickness. Daylight grows dim so slow we do not see nearby, until we have made our way to the cold and gray blue ocean, where the sand is hard and wet and it is easier to walk. Thank you. Yes!
So unfortunately, I don't know how this paper up here. So unfortunately for the last reader of the evening, he did not supply us with a bio. I may or may not know him kind of well. And I've heard a few things about him. Like I know he had that short story published in what was it, Portland Review, right?
Yeah, and I believe he once killed a man with his thighs.
He was published in, let's see, Gross Moments, short story anthology that changed our lives, and Nail magazine.
Yes, I believe he also once won a gold Olympic medal for competitive marine biology.
Okay. He plays one of our organ symphonies, and I think he just recently released a wonderful novel from Small Release Press. And so please, very warm welcome to my dear friend, wonderful writer, Bradley Curiosity.
These guys are going to take it on real quick. Anyways, thanks Tommy in this spot, and this amazing bird Tom and Phil. We're going to see a lot of that thing, I think. I think you're right. Tom and Stages. Hi, buddies. I'm going to read this chapter out of this. This is kind of a weird thing. I want to tell this story about what happened after I wrote this at the table, because this is the only place I could really tell it. I guess I could tell it some other places, but it's about a moth. This really happened. This is, you guys, a lot of you are familiar with Dangerous Writers at the table, but I don't want to sound like it's a lead thing, the world knows about it. Anyways, this moth came in. It was a summer day, it was hot, we're all down there reading our pages, and I had my pages, these pages, it was on the third draft of this, and they're sitting in front of me, and this moth flies into the window. And it was a green moth, it was a cabbage moth. Not cabbages and kings, but moth. Green moth. And it's flying around. And Mary Frank, there, and Elder goes, kill it! And I don't know all things, and Sage says, kill it! Get it out of his kid, just go.
Eating my kale.
He was eating his garden. And so this thing is flying around, and it landed on my fucking pages. So now I'll read this, and then I'll tell you what happened to the moth. This really happened. I mean, I can't make this shit up. And I don't know if this was written, or the moth wrote, I don't know what happened. I can't really explain it.
It was way more spontaneous than
I don't know, Sage could probably tell this story much better. Anyways, I'm sorry. Anyways, this is from my book, Monkey Spills. There are lots of things to think about when you're stuck four people laying side by side in a VW van out in the middle of a lemon grove forest with a cop car driving up next to your door. Even with them windows being partly open, the air and courage was getting a kind of steel to it. Us breathing up all the oxygens, breathing out the carbon dioxides. Then carbon dioxides us humans make so all them lemon grove trees can turn out their lemony fruit so we can mix our vodka in with it if we want. It's a scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of thing. But there wasn't no lemon grove trees in Big Pete's van with us. It was just the four of us laying shoulder to shoulder, boy, girl, boy. That moth in there too, breathing little tiny airs into his little tiny lungs. I wondered how much air a moth needs to breathe in order to stay alive. My naked chest was pushing against the middle C-cup bosoms of Evelyn, the bosoms that were so much a part of her, so much of a part of the things I had learned, the love we had for each other, personal and for us alone. A love that only me and her could ever really know about in all the sums of all its private parts. Even though we was two people in a bondage by it, we was still two different people with different things that had happened to them in their lives and different ways they was raised and so on and so on and so on. I don't think there was any way I was ever going to understand exactly all them things that was going around in Edwin's head. I'm not fucking him, bunk. It was causing me a peptic, trying to figure it out. In the first place, I guess I kind of believed her, or maybe I just wanted to believe her. She probably hadn't fucked him. Not yet. After all, I had to date her for almost 2 whole weeks before she let me in. Then again, maybe Evelyn wasn't telling me she hadn't fucked him yet. Maybe she was telling me she was never going to fuck him at all. Poor Big Pete. He didn't know what he was going to be missing, but she never said anything about blowjobs. Her and Big Pete naked in a ride. Shit just kept pushing into my head. Images of what ifs and how to's, and I can't believe it. Wayne started getting all antsy again. Wayne's, anyway, this is kind of a spoiler if you guys haven't read it, but it's okay, right? I can't help it. I gotta get out of here, he said. I need to get some air. His ass squirming into my ass, rubbing against it in a friction, pushing my crotch into Evelyn's posterior mound. Evelyn stayed neutral, not pushing her into me, but not pulling away neither. There wasn't no extra light coming in the windows no more, but that didn't mean that cop still wasn't out there. Shut off his headlights so as to put him on the sneak. Cops did stuff like that all the time. Angelina started talking away in one of them nursery rhyme voices, all high-pitched, talking to a puppy. Don't you worry, honey bun. We just need to sit here quiet for a second. Everything's gonna be all right. Fucking Angelina. One kiss with Wayne, and already she was starting in with all them sweet talks, like there was some kind of line item now. It was downright disgusting and an embarrassment for me and Wayne, and most of all for Angelina. I could help to put an end to it. Me still being kind of squished in there, my words for Wayne going right into Evelyn's face. Yeah, shut the fuck up, Wayne, I said, and keep your fucking ass still. You're rocking the van around. Ain't you paying attention? There's a fucking cop outside, goddammit. I gotta admit, I have a little bit of self-conscious about my breath moving in a direct path to Evelyn's olfactories. That it smelled all cocaine-y and alcoholic and tobacco-y. But if Evelyn thought it smelled bad, she didn't say nothing about it. In fact, being in such a stressful time and what we was having, she was being amazingly quiet, and she wasn't looking at me. She was looking off to the side into the, I don't have the slightest clue what she was looking at. Wayne acting squirming fish at the bottom of a boat, Double sticking me in the back, tossing his head and body around an exorcist, his voice in a wheeze. I can't breathe, he said. He probably couldn't get any air up through his broke nose. Plus, I bet his lungs was numb from all that shitload of coke I had blown up into him. Not to mention them breathing apparatuses in his throat that could have taken on some damage from all that choking Kyle Stillwater had inflicted on him. Fucking Wayne tried to raise his head so he could get a better look at where he was at. Apparently, he really hadn't heard nothing I said about there being a cop outside. If I had a hammer, I would have hit him over the head and knocked his ass out again. I swear to God I would have. I'd hit him in the morning, I'd hit him in the evening. I'd hit him all over his land. I swear to God I would have. I rolled the bed off to my side onto my back so I could pull him down by the front of his black t-shirt, pull him down and close to my own bosom. It wasn't hard. Poor old Wayne, he didn't have much strength left in him at all. I told him real quiet, stay the fuck down, Wayne. The insides of courage lit up bright as Esmeralda again. I could fucking feel the cop's bad vibe and his, I'm gonna get you motherfuckers. His headlights lighting everything up, ruining everything, causing the moth to reappear and start bashing itself into the side window again. Wayne staring at the moth, holding some more of his inquisition. The sound of gravel and tires rolling, the cop next to us now for sure crawling slow, Wayne in the struggle against me, his shirt in my hand, threatening to rip away. Evelyn got an arm out and started trying to hold him too, and Angelina, from the other side, she had rolled over on top of him with one leg doing her part. I figured I could try and get Wayne's mind off things, change the subject. I remembered about that outlaw from Alaska that Wayne had been telling us about when he stole all the beer a couple hours ago. Now it's the whisper time. That's Soapy Smith, I said. He's a vegetarian, oh Wayne. That mouth bouncing into the window. Wayne, he wasn't answering, but I knew Wayne, and I knew that deep down in his gut he had heard me, and all them things I had been saying there and festered in the back of that one-of-a-kind Wayne brain of his. Wayne, he got quiet, and Wayne going quiet at that particular time was one of the scariest things I had ever experienced in my whole entire life. Funny though, it wasn't because of that cop, and for once it wasn't because I was afraid of something Wayne might have do. You know, the quiet before the storm and all that, it was different this time. Wayne was doing the right thing at the right time, and that's what scared me the most. I mean, he bear meat and stuff like that up there, I asked. Angelina, her voice was in a whisper too. Up where, she asked. Who's Soapy, said Evelyn real quiet. In Alaska, I said, right, Wayne? The inside of the van got all darker all of a sudden, like them cops' headlights was past. Only meant that his window and his fucking head and his badge and his gun was right there next to us. That's when fucking Wayne jerked his shirt loose and popped his head up quick, like a weasel. Soapy Smith never ate his vegetables, and he sure wasn't scared of no cop, Wayne shouted. I mean, it was loud, really loud, really, it was. We was all going to jail. Another bright light come shining through the rear window, lighting everything up again, lighting up Wayne's gruesome face, lighting up his disheveled hair, lighted up me and my body and Angelina and Evelyn, all entwined about each other. Fuck, since it didn't matter anymore, I popped my head up too. I had to put my hand up over my eyes, Sitting Bull, surveying the plains of buffaloes to shield out enough of the bright light to see. anything behind us. My first thought was, shit, it was another cop. We was hemmed in. We were surrounded. But as the lights got closer, I realized it wasn't a cop at all. It was just another car coming down the street with its high beams on. I looked out the front window. The cop had passed us. Him and his shiny fucking lights was over a block away. For one time in my life, when it came down to the cops, for one fucking time, I had caught a break. I reached up and turned on the dome light again. The light come on, all awash. Wayne had got himself scooted over towards the front of the camper bed. Wayne's demeanor still in a limbo, staring at the moth flying into the dome light again, over and over and over, bashing its velvety head and body. Wayne's face, a frozen sausage patty in a cold pan. Then he reached out quick, praying mantress. And he snatched that moth ninja clean out of the air with one motion of his hand. And he closed his fist around it tight. And he looked down at his fist. And he turned it and checked it out from all the angles. And his face was still sausage, but making an attempt at an astute thinking. His head this way and that, a human being acting a dog for something he couldn't quite understand. When Evelyn figured out it was safe, she sat up too, and Angelina and all three of us with the sides of our asses touching, all three of us in a row, staring at Wayne and his fist and his body swaying back and forth and around Transcendental. The dome light casting down its yellow light on top of his head. Then Wayne opened his hand, laying there all in a world of hurt that was the moth. What was left of it anyway. It didn't look all velvety and smooth like it used to. It wasn't beautiful anymore. It was just a bug. One of its wings was still trying to fly. Fucking Wayne looked right into me. His dark, cold black eyes staring into my shit for browns. His smile spreading out onto his face, latitude with all the world, made my cheeks hurt to look at him. He raised his eyebrows and he tilted his head a little bit as if he was telling me he had unraveled one of the universe's greatest mysteries. Then he popped the moth, straight into his mouth and he swallowed it whole. You think moths can get you high, Monk? That moth landed up right on my pages, and I looked over at old Tom standing right there, and he looked at me and he goes, and I ate that moth.
It's that time.
Oh my God, thank you so much to all the readers. Please round of applause for everybody. Johnny, Rick Barr, please give the bartenders a wonderful. And anybody who's read it first before, we're doing